Karen, you told us you would help with the yard work. Why are you still in bed?
It's only 9:30 in the morning. I'm going back to sleep. Also, do you have any more food I can eat? I'm hungry.
r/EntitledParents. Our first story we'll be reading today, entitled Mooch Takes Over My Home, Overstays Her Welcome, from user BlueShadow24. After that, The Bus Seat Everyone Wants, entitled People, from user Theory of Evolution. Thank you so much to our authors for letting us read your stories, and if you're an author who would like me to read your story next, please submit them to the r/Mr. Reddit subreddit. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories every single day. Entitled Mooch Takes Over My Home, Overstays Her Welcome. Greetings, Mr. Reddit. Sorry to have a new post so soon, but this just happened, and I really need to vent. It's kind of a long one that features some entitled parenting and a little pro-revenge at the end. But mostly, this story is about a big fat mooch. It's a rather long one, so buckle up, and I'm sorry for the length. Also, there is not much dialogue in this story, so I again apologize for that. To start with, for those who haven't read any of my previous posts, I work at a hotel my mom owns. Sometimes we get these charity cases from the county or churches. Sometimes it's something sad, like a family whose home burned down or something along those lines, in which case we are glad to help. But usually we get these down-on-their-luck lowlifes who have no place to go because they are either out of jail or they got kicked out of their homes, etc. I have future stories about these types of people. Now, it was sometime in late January that she showed up. I will resist the urge to call her Snorlax because she was rather rotund and she slept all day, only waking to eat. And boy, did she eat. Oh, and shower once a week. Instead, I will call her Entitled Mooch. So Entitled Mooch showed up at our hotel late in the month. She was just fresh out of prison and had nowhere to go. No home, no job. The county had dumped her off on us and paid her way to stay for a couple months. She was rather quiet during these months, keeping to herself. After 2 months, she asked Mom if there was anything she could do to earn some money, as she had no more to live on. Now, I'm the only cleaner here, which means I typically work 7 days a week, and it can burn me out after a while. Sometimes I'm given Monday off if we're having a slow week. So, Mom hired Entitled Mooch to work Mondays for me and to help out whenever needed temporarily. Don't get me wrong, I was grateful for the break and the extra help. At this point, she hadn't become the Entitled Mooch just yet. She was actually pretty nice and helpful. During this time, me and my family were in the process of moving from our house into my mother's house on the property, as our previous landlord decided to sell the house and gave us 2 months to leave. That's an entitled story for another time. My mom had recently purchased a new home with her boyfriend and decided to let us move into her house. So we now live at the hotel and bar where I work, which is quite convenient, and I love it. But wait, things are about to get bumpy. After 3 months, the county stopped paying her rent. She had nowhere to go, and so my mother worked out a deal with Entitled Mooch. She could stay rent-free if she helped out around the property, which she did for a while. We had just moved into the house and were getting unpacked. The problem came when an annual bike run came to our bar. You see, the bikers had already taken all the rooms a year in advance, so we needed her hotel room. So my mother worked out another deal with her. She could stay in our house in the guest room for 2 weeks. Now, my mother is my landlord now, so it's still technically her house, so I can't say anything against this. Keep in mind, we haven't even lived there a full month yet. Needless to say, We weren't happy, but went along with it, as I have had no previous problems with her. We let her use our fridge and bathroom so long as she agreed to one term. She had to help out around the house whenever asked. She agreed since she wasn't paying rent at this point. For a while, things were okay. She kept to herself a lot. Me and my wife, being nice people, offered to take her places when she needed, and she even hung out with us once in a while. And she did help out at first. She pulled weeds, helped with dinner, washed her dishes, and only ate her food. Then things started to change. 2 weeks slowly became 2 months. The first incident occurred 2 weeks after she moved into the guest room. She came up nicely and asked my wife to use her laptop. My wife was currently using it to work on an art project, but being the nice lady she is and not wanting to cause trouble, she agreed. Entitled Mooch used the laptop for 4 hours. It was well after 1 a.m. before I got up and loudly announced I was going to bed before she took our hint and gave it back. The second incident occurred one morning while we were sleeping. To lay it out, my son has disabilities and lives on a very strict schedule. If his schedule changes, his whole day is thrown off. So one Saturday morning, we are all fast asleep. My son gets up and goes out to Entitled Mooch's room and starts bugging her. He knows he's supposed to wake us up in the morning, but decided to wake her instead. We informed her before that if my son comes into your room in the morning, to please wake us up. So we wake up, and she had brought him into the kitchen and had given him sugary cereal, chocolatey Pop-Tarts, and the kitchen table was littered with his toys, which is against the rules. We kept our cool, as to not make trouble with someone we live with. We told her how important it is to keep him on schedule, but it was too late. My son had gotten his way and wouldn't calm down and became a real handful, wanting his way the rest of the day because Entitled Mooch let me have it. After we had a talk with her, things really began to change. A few days later, we asked her to please help us weed the garden as they were getting out of control, and it was a big job. Mom never pulled the weeds before she left. She had agreed to help us the next day, so the next morning we are all out there. Me, my wife, my son, and my daughter, pulling weeds before it gets too hot out. Guess who wasn't out there? If you said Entitled Mooch, you are on the money. After us pulling weeds by ourselves for 2 hours, right outside her room, mind you, with her window open, so I'm sure she heard us complaining about her absence after an hour. My wife walks into Entitled Mooch's room. She's in bed like a useless log, still sleeping. It's 9:30 in the morning at this point. We had agreed to start at 7:30. My wife, "Hey, I thought you were going to help us pull these weeds today." Entitled Mooch in a whiny tone. She talks like this all the time.
Oh, I can't help today. My social worker is coming at 10. I can possibly help you after.
My wife, "See that you do, please. There's a lot of weeds out here, and it's getting hotter by the minute." So 10 a.m. comes and goes, and no social worker shows up. I know, because I was out there sweating for another hour, and nobody approached my house. We quit around 11:30 because the heat is starting to get unbearable, and my son can't be in intense heat for too long. We are mad. When we asked her why she never showed up, she responded,
Oh, the social worker canceled on me, so I thought I'd get some extra sleep. I was up until 3 in the morning, and I'm tired.
How that was our problem, I will never know, but we grudgingly left her be. And things kept escalating from there. Too many things to list here, but among the things she did was she started eating our food, leaving her laundry in our washer wet overnight, not helping out anymore, eating food in her room, and leaving the dirty dishes out. Among these, she ate an entire gallon of ice cream by herself in one night, and left the bucket out, and it brought ants into my home. And she stopped showing up to work. Finally, we reached the end of our tale, the straw that broke the proverbial back, as it were. One Friday night, 2 weeks after the weeding incident, I'm doing DJ duty in the bar for a party. And it's a good crowd. She walks into the bar, grabs several plates of food, and, I'm seriously not kidding, 5 pieces of cake, and starts drinking. Now, she's on probation and isn't supposed to be doing this. As the night progresses, she manages to get my mother to give her $60. Before the night is over, she approaches me and asks to switch my day off for her to Sunday, as she has a job interview on Monday. I asked if she was sure, because there was every room that day. She insists it's no problem, and I agree, since I worked every day that week and could use the break. So around 2 a.m., I finish DJing for the night and decide to clean the bar so I could sleep in that morning. During my DJ gig, I made $100 in 20s, which my mom paid me. I also made some extra tips. In total, I had $160 in my tip jar when I finished. I set the jar back behind the bar and began cleaning. I finished and locked up an hour and a half later. I realized then I left my tip jar behind, but didn't worry about it as I knew nobody would be in the bar until 11. I decided to ask my wife to run into the bar and grab it later that next morning. So morning came. My wife ran into the bar to grab my tips, and Entitled Mooch was inside, mopping the floor with Rejuvenate. Apparently, Mom had asked her to do that, and I didn't know. So my wife grabs my tip jar and goes home, with Entitled Mooch watching her the entire time. She brings it in, and we set to counting it, and find out there's exactly $100 in my jar. I was missing $60. I knew that was wrong, because I specifically remember that my mom gave me 100 in 20s, and now only had 80 in 20s. I was mad, but I had no way of proving it. Mom didn't believe me either, as Entitled Mooch had her wrapped around her finger. So I never confronted her, because I didn't want to make trouble. Sunday came, and I'm sleeping in. At 8:30, I get a phone call from Entitled Mooch. Hello?
Where are you? I need help today. I have all 7 rooms and can't do this myself.
You switched my day off, remember? You agreed to work today. I told you you had all 7 rooms.
It was loud in there, and I couldn't hear you. I need help with these rooms.
Me, having had enough and having no desire to help someone who stole from me. Not my problem. Click. 10 minutes later, and I get another call, this time from my mom. She's furious with me, demanding I get up and do my job and to go help Entitled Mooch. I tried explaining that Entitled Mooch switched days off with me, but Mom wouldn't hear it. She also won't believe that Entitled Mooch stole money out of my tip jar. Oh, Entitled Mooch wouldn't do that. If not her, then who else took the money, Mother? So I go out and help her clean rooms. I'm furious and making sure I'm always in a different room than her and keep my headphones on the entire time. Thank God for sonic music. I had reached my limit. Thankfully, she doesn't try saying anything else to me, so I don't blow up at her. A few days later, I managed to convince my mother to move Entitled Mooch back into the hotel. She stayed for 2 more weeks and only left today. And the hotel room was so bad, I had to shut it down for 2 days. She smoked in the room, which is against the rules. She left food on the counter, and her bed was so gross, I had to take a shower after handling the blankets. The room stinks so bad, too. So I have to wash all the bedding in that room and wipe the walls down with Pine Sol. She left our guest room in a similar state, and we still haven't gotten the smell out. But that's not where the story ends. Oh no, we got some tiny bit of revenge. You see, she just happens to have the exact same social worker as my son. We receive help because of his disabilities. The social worker visited us yesterday and we may have let it slip how bad she was treating our place, and that money went missing while she was here. And I quite possibly might have mentioned she was in the bar drinking while on probation. Petty, I know, but I don't tolerate theft. And that's my story. I apologize again for the length, but I hope you enjoyed it. Mr. Reddit, you have full permission to read this if you want. Thanks for reading. Edit. Apparently, she told Mom she had found a job and an apartment in a nearby town, which turned out to be a lie. She's currently residing in a homeless shelter, and I have no remorse. She took advantage of our good nature, and I know she stole from me. Recently, we went through our finances and have discovered that a lot of money went unaccounted for while she was here. Looks like karma finally caught up to Entitled Mooch and bit her in the face. Edit 2. We just loaded our son's meds for the week and discovered several are missing. She's lucky she's gone now, because I am beyond furious. Next we've got the bus seat everyone wants. Hey Mr. Reddit and Re-Army. Today I bring you an entitled person story. Spoiler alert, it doesn't involve police, just a person who thought she was entitled to something when she wasn't, and the pettiness that followed. So this takes place nearly 2 decades ago, back when I was in high school. It was about an hour each way to and from school as I changed districts due to bullying issues, but I digress. So I think I was in my 4th or 5th year of high school. I took 7 years, please don't judge. And I had changed routes I took to get to school for convenience. Now my stop was the very start of the route, so the bus would sit there for like 5 to 10 minutes before heading out. So I just got on and sat in the same seat I always did on every bus when it was open. Now before we continue, I should give a bit of a layout. The front of the bus had 2 long sideways seats meant for those with physical disabilities. In fact, on most buses, they could be lifted for wheelchairs. Then it was 2-person seats on the left and right with a middle aisle the rest of the way. I would always sit in the first 2-person seat on the right-hand side of the bus. So one day I get on and sit as usual. A lady came on a couple minutes later and looked to be heading to my seat. However, when she looked up and saw me, she gave me a dirty look and sat in another seat. Now I didn't think much of this at first. I thought maybe she was just having a rough morning. Boy, was I wrong. For the next few weeks, she would always scowl at me before taking her seat. That's when it occurred to me, she must usually be the one who sat there. So the following week, the bus pulls in, and I see she's already on the bus, meaning she got up earlier and hopped on the bus before the route changed just to get the seat. When I got on, she just smirked at me. I just thought, wow, how entitled must you be? Now, I was going to just let this all go. I mean, it's just a bus seat. However, that changed the day she missed it at her stop, so came running to ours and shoved her way in front of me in line. I was first in line to make sure she got the seat. Now I just thought, okay, game on. So from that day on, I made sure that whenever she didn't get on at her special stop, I would do whatever I could to be first in line. Let me tell you, she tried to bully her way in multiple times. I just blocked her and played it off as accidental. Eventually, she was like,
"What are you doing?"
I respond, "What do you mean? I'm just waiting for the bus like you." She huffed and said,
"There's no reason to move around like that. We'll all get on."
So I smirk and say, "There is when someone is trying to cut in line just for a bus seat." Without another word, the lady moved to the back of the line and I got my bus seat. From that point on, she almost never got that seat. Of course, if someone else besides her got it before me, I didn't care. It was all about making sure she didn't get it. After a while, she no longer appeared on our bus. I figured she must have changed bus times, so I'll call that a win. I know this isn't as glamorous as other stories, but I hope you enjoyed all the same. I give Mr. Reddit and any other YouTubers full permission to read this in a video. Just please make sure to share the link so I may watch. And congrats to our Regenerals of the day, Lucky Gunner, Dennis, TGA Cobalt Iron Fist, and KC Cat 5. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by dropping as many Rees as you can in the comments below.